Okay, so let's start. A very, very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Barbara Verő, representing Women Business Angels, and I will facilitate this event today. Please note that this event is organized together with Tőkeportál. And we have a very, very exciting topic for today: why and how to become an angel investor. And we have a very, very special guest, Marla Shapiro from the UK, who will share with us her experience. And after the discussion with Marla, we will have a short roundtable discussion with the following participants: Eszter, Szabó, and Nóra, Szeles. And then we will open up for a Q&A session. So please do not hesitate to post your questions on Facebook. But before having a discussion with Marla, let me ask Eszter, Szabó, President of Women Business Angels, to open up the event and say a few words and welcome the participants. Eszter, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Women Business Angels is a small association that is based in Budapest. It really does two things. One is a thought leadership about women participating in investment. And if you just think about where we are in Central Eastern Europe, it's a post-socialist region where we are not really accustomed to investing in other people's companies, especially not locally. And the other level what we operate on is pulling together a co-educated women and men together angel investor group, and we have been doing trainings, you know, this session we have organized as many others together with Tőkeportál, Nóra, Szeles. That organization is just launching. We are 2 years old, and we really join forces for a win-win game.
Okay, thank you, Eszter. I'm sure that we will come back to you to ask a few questions from you, but please do not hesitate to ask questions from Marla as well, because I know that you have quite a lot of experience in this topic. So Nóra, can I ask you just to quickly introduce yourself, introduce Tőkeportál, but before doing that, let me wish you a very, very special birthday. So very happy birthday to you. We cannot hear you, Nóra.
Reminding me and including me in your panel. And this is not the first time, and it's not, I hope, not the last time either, as I wish that the more women and the more investors get into investment through crowdfunding, which is a beginner level of investing for everyone. And I wish the more women would get involved the soonest in crowdfunding and in angel investing as well. I met Marla, I was so lucky to meet her in London back a few months ago, and she participated in a workshop there, how to engage women, more women investors, how to promote women founders. And Marla was there as a women angel investor, and she introduced her exciting experiences about angel investment. So it's a great occasion for me to invite her into this event. Tőkeportál has launched its services just this year. So we had the Covid-19 broke out, of course, in the most unluckiest moments that ever could happen. Right after the first campaigns were launched. I'm happy to say that the campaign initiators and owners, crowdfunders, have recovered from the first shock and updated their business plans and for the future. So I hope to continue with the first campaign successfully as well. And I will for sure have try to get the chance to introduce you the campaigns at another event, more detailed. So, but thank you very much for getting me in here today as well.
Okay, thank you, Nóra. And you know, having the preparatory discussion with Marla, and fully understand why you invited her, because she's so energetic and very, very knowledgeable. So very, very warm welcome, Marla, and really thanks for accepting the invitation and being us with today. And would you mind sharing your background? What did you do before, and why did you start investing as an angel at the start?
First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's really exciting to be here and to share sort of my excitement about angel investing with a new community of women. Because there's hardly any of us out there, and we need to be more. So I have a little bit of a varied professional background. I think a lot of angels have done a few things before they came to this. So I guess my career can be divided into three areas. I started as a junior investment banker. I'm not sure if people can tell by my accent, but I'm American. And so I'm from a really small town in the middle of nowhere, America. And I moved to New York City at 22 to work on Wall Street. And that was pretty shocking. I worked on the trading floor at 22. It was like the Wolf of Wall Street kind of situation. Did that for 4 years, went and got an MBA at MIT, went back to Wall Street, always doing structured finance, always doing, very, very analytical finance, trade finance. And then I decided right before the first dot-com crash that I was sick of banking and I wanted to be in the dot-com sector. So 1 month before the market crashed, I went to go work for a startup, but it was actually a corporate startup. I went to work for the Financial Times, FT.com, building the brand in the US. And they told me at the time, don't worry about a revenue model. We just need eyeballs. And then the bottom fell out of the market. And that was my introduction to online. So for 20 years, I've been thinking about how to make money out of technology. I spent probably about 10 years thinking about how creators, people who create content, newspaper journalists, musicians, filmmakers, how they make money online. And I worked in big companies grappling with technology. And then in the next act, I started to work in startups. And so I've been head of commercial in 3 different startups, all in the media tech space, all software businesses selling into large media companies. So it's finance, it's working in big corporates, it's working in startups. And I also do a fair bit advisory work with young entrepreneurs and students, which I love, through Imperial College.
Okay, that's so interesting, this professional background. But why did you start thinking about becoming an angel? Was it an easy decision, or did it just come like that?
No, it didn't come like that at all. I was absolutely petrified of being an angel because I had worked in startups, and I understood how dilution works. I understood about being in a failing startup. I worked in so even years later, I get sad. I worked in a startup out of Sweden that was meant to be the Netflix of Sweden, and then Netflix came to Sweden, and we had to take the whole company through like 2 different pivots. We went from being a video on demand platform to a software platform. The valuations kept dropping, so I understood exactly what it was like when the investors were after you. I understood what it was like trying to desperately sell a business for 10 million that was valued at 100 million the previous year. So I was pretty turned off, actually. But and then my husband kept telling me, you should be an investor. I met him at business school. And I was like, I don't really know how to be an angel. And basically for 2 years. And then I was on a panel 2 years ago on International Women's Day, talking about entrepreneurship. And I was talking about what to do when you're in a failing startup. That was my slot. And somebody said to me, well, why are there no women angels? And I just stopped and I thought, I don't know. And so it started me down a quite long journey trying to answer that question. And as part of answering that question, I realized that if women don't have a seat at the table, the future is being built by men. So I'm an old school feminist. I've been a feminist for 20, 30 years. And I thought, this is as much a feminist call to arms. Like, I need, as a woman, to be picking the companies of the future. I need to say what the future is going to look like for me, for my children. And then when I got into it, I was like, this is so fun. has everything that I've done in my whole career. It's got finance, it's got startups, it's got sales, it's got corporates. I actually knew 95% of it already. I just was too scared to realize it.
What was the last drop? Was it was it your husband convincing you to become an angel, or when did you really feel that you really have to become an angel as a woman?
Well, as a woman, I felt like I should do it, like it was the right thing to do, but I was afraid to do it. But the person who got me in, okay, so I'm thinking about it, right? But I'm like, I don't know. And so I started to interview people who were angels and ask them how they started and, you know, why do you do it? And what do you like? And so I spoke to a friend, a mutual friend of my husband and mine, who changed, and he's a full-time angel, like very professional angel. And when I asked him how he did it, he said, I started investing. And like, so I owe everything to this guy, not women. I met plenty of women angels.
That's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, no, I met all these women who are like, oh, trust your, I mean, like, it was good. And there's a lot of events like this, I think, where you see someone who's an angel and you think, God, if she can do it, I can do it. I mean, I definitely had some of that, but I couldn't make that step until this friend of mine said, just start investing. And he started, I was like, how did you start? And he said, I started to invest and I started to practice on crowdfunding. So he said that because angel investing has a big ticket, we'll talk about that. And when you want to start, it's daunting because you don't know what you're doing. And it's daunting because you have to spend a lot of money and you don't know what you're doing. And that, I think, is that combination without having, you know, I don't have a ton of money. I have a little bit of money. And I was afraid to lose it. I was afraid to make mistakes. But when I realized that I could start with pretty small checks, then I thought, okay. And so, yeah, so it was my friend Antoine got me into it. He said, you should do it.
Because I'm sure that we have lots of participants who have the same challenges and concerns nowadays. So what would you recommend? To start it immediately with small amounts? What else? Would you have any other recommendation at the moment for those ones who are really hesitating? They would like to invest, but they do not really know how to start.
Well, okay, so there's a couple things I need to say, and I'm sure you have the similar regulation. So I need to have the sort of disclaimer. Angel investing is incredibly risky. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I don't think that we should tell anybody that they're going to make a lot of money doing this. We hope to make a lot of money, but the statistics show that 70% of all angel investments return zero. That means you don't even get your capital back. You lose everything. 2 will return your capital, so whatever you put in, you get back. And 1 is going to be a superstar. So you have to keep this in mind. So the money that you put for angel investing is after your savings account, after your credit cards, after your pension, after your mortgage. So for many people, including myself, that's only a little bit of money at the end. So the first thing is to be really conscious of, this is money that you have to be able to lose. And for some people that might be 10,000, pounds, euros a year. For other people, it might be 100,000. For other people, it might be, only 1,000. And so you have to know what you can afford to invest. The second thing is that you have to invest in a portfolio. If those statistics, if those statistics that I told you are right, and they're, roughly right, I mean, we all hope we can pick more than the average, but if you're the average investor, only 1 investment is going to pay off. And so you need to get 10 investments. And so you need to figure out, with that little pot of money, how are you going to spread your bets? And I think that it does help to learn about angel investing. And I was thinking about this, Barbara. There's a couple, we talked about a few things that I would share with people after the call, but there's also a group, and I'll send you the link. I think it's called ESIL. It's part of the European Union. It's called the ESIL Angels, and it helps angel groups start. Maybe you guys know it. Nora's nodding. Yeah. So they have great resources. So I think that it's not a bad idea to read a few of these things about how to invest. But don't do your homework too much. women, we talked about this, Barbara, when we prepared, women are perfectionists.
Yes.
But statistically, we know this. Men are perfectionists.
So what is the main difference between men and women when we are talking about angel investment? Is there a significant difference between the two?
You know, that's a great question. I think, I don't know, because there's so few women, and the women I know are so prepared and they're so smart and they're so good. So could I say that women are better prepared than men? Yeah, but it's such a small sample. And I know some really great men. I think it's not external. I think it's internal. Women are much more insecure, and we doubt ourselves, and we think that we need to be overly prepared. So there's a stereotype that women investors never invest. We do diligence to death. We will never actually pull the trigger and write a check. Whereas the stereotype is that men come in and they're like, oh yeah, and then they write checks. I don't hang out with anybody like that. Everybody I know is smart, in this space. Everybody is, we'll talk a little bit about some of the men I co-invest with. These guys are really good. I mean, I follow them. Like, I like to invest and see, because I think they're amazing. I wouldn't invest with a bunch of guys who are jerks. And I don't think anybody should invest with anyone who's a jerk. I think you should do your homework on the sector. You should do your homework on how to be an angel investor. And then you should write checks, because the only way, and again, Antoine, he's like my little spirit guide. I don't think he knows this, but I brought him in to mentor with me. So we mentor at this large university in London, a science and tech university. And he said, when I mentor, the questions I ask and how I think about things are completely different than to the questions I ask as an investor. And now that I'm a much more active investor, as opposed to just a mentor, he's so right. You don't know you can't be an investor unless you invest. But if you don't, but a great way to start is to be doing it on crowdfunding platforms. I think that you should put enough money that it's real money, like 20 quid or 20 pounds, 20 euros. You'll just click, make it count, make it 100, make it 200, make it 1,000. And then you'll really do your research. You'll really practice. And with your small initial pot, you'll get that learning. So I think that's my first piece of advice. My second piece is that you really want to invest with friends. So all of the advice says to join a syndicate, a bunch of experienced angels, but you need to choose. You need a syndicate where people share the due diligence, where they're very open, because not everybody is. But my syndicate is very open by design, and then the men that I invest with are amazing. They're so lovely, and they teach and they share, and you really pull on different expertise, because nobody is an expert in everything. So even if you're investing in a field that you know very, very deeply, it's great to get other people's ideas. So a little bit of learning, start writing small checks, do it in a group. That's my advice.
And just coming back to your portfolio, how do you choose your startups? Is it a rational decision or is it an emotional decision? Once we are talking about the women, I think we tend to be a bit more emotional. So how do you choose your portfolio? Okay, if you have, 10 startups to invest in, so how do you choose them?
Okay, I don't do anything emotionally. I mean, no, that's not true. I live my whole life emotionally, but not with my money. Okay. So I was told by another investor, in fact, who I was on the phone with today, much more experienced than me, that you choose your portfolio across we can talk about broad sector, but you don't invest too narrowly. So let's say you only want to invest in education startups, ed tech. That's fine. You can invest just in that, but you want different parts of the ed tech universe, and you want them at different stages as well. So this man and I were discussing a quantum computing startup. I know nothing about quantum computing, but what I did hear in the pitch is that they were not actually, the technology didn't even work yet. Like apparently with deep technology, there's different levels of readiness. And so I was asking him, what does level whatever it was, mean 5 or whatever. And he says, that means 5 more years of funding until they can commercialize it. Okay. And he says, look, maybe you want to have one of those in your portfolio, but you need other things in the portfolio that are much further along and are already generating revenue. So in constructing a portfolio and looking to things to invest in, I invest again in 2 areas. One is in green technology, and I do that with a syndicate, and I'm definitely a junior member. I'm learning. And then through my own syndicate, we invest in female founders or co-founders across sectors, but we require 2 things. We require a few things. That it needs to be scalable technology. So I don't invest in products. We don't support any food startups or anything like that. It has to be scalable. It has to also have shown initial product market fit. This group of women were all entrepreneurs, so we don't want to fund anyone else's idea. We want to see that a customer is paying. And what is the third thing? Oh, and the third thing is that it has to be something that somebody in our group is an expert in. So today I sat in on a call on insurance technology. I don't know anything about insurance. I mean, I listened to the entire call. I was like, but Nóra, who's in my syndicate, Irish woman living in Spain, so we're pretty international. She's an insurance investor, an insurance tech, and she thought it was a great idea. Through my network, I got the deal. I passed it on. I still don't believe it, but she was super excited. So I'm gonna follow her lead and find out what she heard that I didn't, and I'm gonna challenge her on the tech piece of it, and she'll come back on the insurance piece, and then we'll decide if we want to take it forward. Mm-hmm.
So you invite the experts, and then you really trust them.
Yeah, but I mean the thing is also we don't have anyone in our group who's an expert in lady products, for example. So if we get a femtech pitch, female health, super hot area, super interesting, we can't do anything with it because we don't know it. And we think that we don't want to be dumb money, we want to be smart money. So we need somebody to contextualize the idea for us in the industry. And so we don't invest in cosmetics again. I've seen a great pitches, but I don't know, I can't tell if this is the company to choose, and no one in our syndicate. But if anyone wants to join our syndicate who knows this, then we can start to invest. But right now we're a small group of women, so we only invest in what somebody is an expert in. But I mean, we're pretty deep. We do fintech, insurance tech, ed tech, obviously media tech, property tech.
Oh, that's quite interesting. Yeah. And you mentioned at the very beginning that you started in small, and you started crowdfunding, and then you switched to angel investment. So what was the main difference, and what would you recommend to others to start with? Is it the right way to get into angel investment? So start with crowdfunding.
In the end, I didn't do crowdfunding. That was my friend.
Or an end relation.
Sorry. No, I haven't done crowdfunding. So this was the advice from my friend. But this friend of mine is in the Green Technology Syndicate, and I decided I wanted to specialize in a particular area. So I haven't actually written any checks myself on crowdfunding. I'm sorry, Nóra, but I haven't done it, but plenty of people have. I know plenty of people who have, and I know a woman, for example, who was one of the first investors in Monzo, which is a unicorn open banking startup that was crowdfunded out of the UK. So I know people who've made money. I just myself needed a bit more hand-holding, and I quite like to go to a meeting, sit in a room with 100 people or 50 people, and turn to the people next to me and ask them what you think about the pitch. And I really like being in a syndicate where they have a process. For myself, I felt that I needed that. In retrospect, I probably didn't, but I wasn't very confident. So I thought, well, I need to follow people who know what they're doing. Whereas I think in crowdfunding, it would be good if you have a few friends to do it together. You can definitely learn. And again, you're writing maybe €100 checks as opposed to 1,000 or 10,000 euro checks. So maybe you feel more comfortable on your own. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I didn't do it. Now that you're asking me, I should. especially that I can write smaller check sizes. It would be a great way to learn about femtech, for example, like, because it would force me to do the work and actually get some expertise where I don't have it.
And what about your further plans? So where are you at the moment? You mentioned that you just started. What are your plans, and what do you think in 5 years' time, where you will be? What will be the ticket price? How do you see yourself?
So I started to invest a year ago. Did I write my first check a year ago? But what I was doing was interviewing everybody, because you can see I like to talk. So I would meet somebody and be like, oh, well, tell me your top tips about how you judge an entrepreneur, or how do you think about this factor? And I would go to pitch events and constantly talk to everybody there. I mean, and also the British are very reserved and I'm very American. So I was like, why don't you want to talk about pitches with me? So because I was gathering all this information and constantly talking about deals that I liked, I started to meet people who were interested in investing, and they were women, and they would be like, oh, I don't know. So I
can really understand this.
And I'd be like, come on. So I mean, this is the founder version of the story. There was a lot of twists and turns, but in the end, I thought, damn it, I'm going to start a syndicate for women in the UK. Now there is a syndicate, but I thought, I don't really like what they're doing. I think there's a better way to do it. And so I launched in January the pilot of my syndicate, not mine, it's ours, but I launched it, called HERmesa. And so her for women, and then mesa is Spanish, meaning table, because we talk about women having a seat at the table to make decisions. Wow. And so HERmesa is in pilot form. We have 9 members now, so very small. And I created an education program to give everyone the base, which we did a little bit of practicing on Seedrs, a crowdfunding platform. So that was good. We did a bit of practice. I didn't design the experiment as well as I could have. Next year will be better. But we've done a bit of practice in crowdfunding. We have had a first talk about how to screen pitch decks, which has been huge. But then we jumped in and we've done, God, how many pitches have we looked at? We've looked at probably 20 deals already. One we've taken almost all the way through, and then we decided not to proceed. And we've got a lot more sort of in the middle of the funnel. So we're learning by doing. That's our thesis. We learn by doing, and we ask each woman to pledge 10,000 pounds or euros, but they have to allocate it at a minimum of 2,000 per deal. So it's money, but it's not as much money as others. And so the idea is over 10,000 pounds, you'll get 5 deals, you start to build your portfolio, and you learn. So the HERmesa Syndicate, as I said, we just kicked off in January. Okay. Started really going in mid-February, and then in March, COVID hit. So we're kind of glad we haven't written any checks, but I just did a survey, and my members have cash, and they have interest in time. I'm so relieved. So we are very excited to have some capital and some dry powder. And so that's where we are now. I hope to recruit more members to HERmesa. Unfortunately, not being able to go to events and kind of opportunistically chat with people is a bit difficult, but I have a content marketing plan coming. But I think we'll be small this year, but the goal is to then launch another cohort next year, which is going to be a much larger group of women that goes through quite formal training and investing, and then we keep growing the syndicate. And my goal is at the end of 3 years to have 50 women investing in the UK, which would be, am I doing my math right? 500,000 if we all did 10,000 a year. But some of the women, once they get more confident, and also we have some experienced women who will come to us, they can write bigger checks. So I'm hoping that we will be able to eventually in 3 years lead rounds and be, you know, $250,000, $500,000, yeah, probably not $500,000, but $250,000 check size out of HERmesa. Okay, and if somebody would like to join HERmesa, how to contact you? Well, that's thank you, Barbara. It's Marla at hermesa.co.uk, but I think maybe you can put it in the
the Facebook event, maybe we can.
Yeah, and the website. So what I had promised you was a follow-up. My website should be launching at the end of next week. I'm still writing it, the content. But I'm happy to share with your members our first piece of education, which is how to screen pitch decks. Because as I said, I didn't realize that these pitch decks were sales documents. I mean, obviously I knew, but I'm very susceptible to advertising. So it was really good for me to have a checklist of questions to ask. So how do I know if this pitch is just like a really slick video on a crowdfunding platform versus, you know, if there's real value here. So I'm happy to share our first piece of education that was delivered by a very experienced entrepreneur and angel investor in the UK, and also links to my website. But if anyone wants to get in touch directly, Marla at HERmesa.co.uk. I just have to check. I think I can take money from Hungary. Have to double check, but I think it's okay. We're taking money from Spain. And yeah, I'm absolutely happy to share. I mean, we're all learning together. And I think that what we didn't talk about actually is why women should fund and why we should fund women. So what's the point of women funders and founders? And it's because we make more money. Angel investing is not a charitable event. We're not doing this. If we want to do charity, we'll do charity. If we want to change the world and have a more female view, or just our view, forget a typical female view, our view, then we need to get in there and we need to do it. But it makes good sense. The more women or more diversity you have, the better your investment decisions and the better performing a company is. And there's a lot of data. It's a small data set, but a number of different points that show that women founders return more money than male founders. They exit earlier, so you get your capital back to reinvest, and they make more revenue with much less money.
But why? What is the reason behind?
I think it's because women founders have such a difficult time raising money. They are literally hustlers, and the people who make it through are the best of the best, because it's much harder for a woman to raise than a man. In the UK, it's a very interesting piece of data that everyone was touting, that women get 1p for every 94 cents, I think, or 95 pence goes to all male teams, and then whatever that 4 or 5p goes to a male and a female co-founder. So 1p, I mean, are you kidding me, right? So if you can only get like, you know, a fraction of what a man gets, you're going to use your cash very smartly. If you're going to be able to continue to raise, you are really, you're beating the odds. So what's super interesting is this study that everyone says is 1p. Yes, that's true. But actually, you got to look into the data. The pipeline going into VC funds was only 5% women, but 80% of those women then got funded. Mm-hmm. So the women who get through are very, very strong. The problem is that they're not getting a look, they're not getting the network, and they're being disregarded, I think, almost too early. So that's why I think it's important to be funding women early and hopefully continuing our support or helping to, you know, pass them on to VCs who think the same way, so that they can grow and become big. But yeah, that's what I think is really important, and I think we forgot to talk about that.
Well, I really love your story. Such an experience, and thanks for your honesty to share the concerns, the challenges you faced, and then you managed to invest, and now you build your own business. So I think it's a fantastic message to all the participants. I would like to ask Nóra and Eszter just very shortly, just to reflect, what are the key learnings, what are the key takeaways for you? So what is the Hungarian situation, and really just pick one story what you really loved and you would like to do something with it.
Thank you. The learning by doing is the best. Yes, the learning by doing is the best message from Marla, I think. So stop hesitating, just go ahead and try. and give it a try. Of course, very cautiously and taking all risks into account and decide upon consciously. This is a very clear message, I think. But I'd like to have one more question. I think it would be interesting to know how long does it take to prepare a transaction, Marla, especially in a syndicate, in a syndicate that you already know the way how you work, as you mentioned, and how much does it cost from your side as an investor, and how much do you estimate it costs the founder to raise money? How long and how much?
So the fundraising for founders is 9 months to a year.
Yes.
It's very long, and obviously you have to pay your legal fees and things, but I think the bigger point is usually the syndicates take 5% commission.
Mm-hmm.
So fundraising is exhausting. I mean, I have great sympathy. And sometimes I'm in a meeting and I think, God, I'm not going to invest in this company. Why am I wasting their time? Like, you can see how tired the poor founder is. So yeah, everyone says as a founder that it takes 70 to 80 to 90% of your time to raise the money, and you have to try to run your business and deliver the metrics that people want to see. Listen, it's not an efficient process. I mean, I agree with. Again, technology and platforms can definitely help. But the point of getting angel investment is not just to get money, it's to get somebody who can help you build your business. Sure. And again, all of my initial cohort are entrepreneurs themselves, and they really want to help other people with their knowledge. So it's long and painful, but if you get the right investors in, they can make all the difference.
Mm-hmm. And in your experience, crowdfunding could be a quicker process if it's a platform-based investment?
I think a platform in general is better. I mean, that's like basically our investment thesis, right? Anything that's like tech and scalable that gets rid of old inefficiencies. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Again, I have to say, I don't have enough experience with crowdfunding, and I think you should do a call with some of the people in the UK who are much more experienced. But absolutely, the platform, the whole point of it was to open it up to more people and to make it much more transparent and much faster. So my understanding is, yeah, it's definitely a shorter process.
And is there a competition among angels for the better startups? I mean,
yes.
And doesn't that speed up the process? That it wonders me that in Hungary, it's also 9 to 12 months to an average startup to raise money, at least, especially if they go to VCs, then it's even lengthier. But I thought it should be quicker in London when there are so many investors at the place.
I don't think any of us are as smart as we think we are. And I think that everybody, first of all, well, listen, my syndicate's focus is process. I'm like, if we are picking losers, we better know why. And if we're picking winners, we better know why. And the only way we can do this is if we have a very structured, replicable process. Not everybody invests this way at all, but that's how I invest, and obviously how I've attracted people who want to invest alongside me. But I think it is really interesting. This is a good question. I think maybe pre-COVID, a hotshot experienced founder who had done it before, who looked like an entrepreneur, he's a 20-year-old guy in a hoodie or, something like that. The Mark Zuckerberg look, the Mark Zuckerberg talk. I think maybe if they had a successful exit, they could probably raise fast. But post-COVID, no way.
Yeah.
No way. Which is good for women, because people are going to be looking at business plans. They're going to be looking at metrics, I would hope, and a lot less at, let me tell you how big this could be. As opposed, women, we do know, tend to pitch and say, let me show you my revenue. Let me show you how I'm going to make money, as opposed to dream big.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, as a side note, just as a side note, I don't know if you guys in Hungary are following the story of SoftBank.
SoftBank, sure, absolutely.
So my husband had a chance to invest into SoftBank's funds. He's an investor, but he invests in big stuff. And he was like, he's always liked the Masa, and he said to me recently, God, everything that guy picked has blown up. So, maybe we don't need how big can it be? How crazy can you be? Which is apparently how he invests. Maybe we need show me a real need and show me how you're going to scale and show me how you're going to solve that business.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And my last question, if I might still pose one, is what are the major implications of the COVID-19 on your market? I mean, on the angels investment market.
It's pretty negative. So in my group, we have a few women whose businesses have been crushed, so they can't invest because they're entrepreneurs. And so it's not prudent for them to put money into a high risk long-term investment when their business, they're not going to get any revenue for a year. So, so personally, because we're mainly entrepreneurs, we have that. More typical angels are just rich people, and they've been completely slammed by the stock market going down 20%. So their liquidity is their value is lower and the liquidity is lower. From a fund point of view, everybody says they're open, but apparently that's not true. That the big funds are what they say triaging. You know that expression, like trying to like keep alive the various startups. I saw a tweet. I mean, it's on Twitter, so take it or leave it. That it's going to be harder for women to raise because VCs are going to double down on what's in their portfolio and really work those small personal networks. I don't know. I think, and it's very, the market doesn't like uncertainty and it's so uncertain. So I think the best piece of advice I saw was from a fund that does early stage seed investing. And they said, we won't write any checks till June. And we require that the money raised now lasts 12 to 18 months. And I thought that's a good rule of thumb. So I think hopefully the people will start writing checks in the next 2 months, but you're going to have to make that money work. And the entrepreneurs are going to have to cut to make that money last.
Mm-hmm. Nóra, do you have more questions, comments? Or okay, in that case, okay, maybe we'll have some time to come back to you if you would like to reflect or comment later on. Eszter, what are your most important takeaways, and how do you see the situation in Hungary from angel investment point of view? And would you have any question from Marla?
What I like the most, what Nóra was mentioning, that learning by doing, this is how we see it as well. So yes, investors don't like uncertainty, and the COVID causes uncertainty of investment and uncertainty of how the economy is going to look like after COVID, and we don't know. Nobody knows anything. Yeah. So we have to add the two uncertainties, and but still we have to make it happen. So I have something that really is very interesting for me. So, so Marla, how did you find your first syndicate co-investors, and how do you find deals that you start evaluating, and what is the personal relationship among the team, and also between the team and the founder?
Oh, sorry. Okay, so let me talk about the deal network and then I'll come back. I don't think I caught the full first question. So the deal network is, I have been working on this for a while. And so I have talked to 50% of the women investors in the UK, maybe not that many, but 50% in London, maybe. And they're, to the last one, a super generous group. I mean, super generous. Everybody wants to grow the pie. Everyone wants to be helpful. So thankfully, I have women sending me deals, people who are much more experienced than me and who have much better deal flow. So that's the first thing. I'm getting deals. So very much through my network and a couple of the other more active women in HERmesa, we have networks. And we lean incredibly hard into the, like, you should have some women on your cap table. You should really support female funders and founders. And we're not embarrassed to lean into that. And so that's given us, I think, probably better deal flow than maybe we should have given our experience level. Now that I'm getting a little bit more comfortable, I'm also through Imperial College keeping my eye on very early stage deals, because now I'm getting better at recognizing what I think could be good. And so I have a short list that I watch through mentoring. And one of the most experienced women angels in the UK talked about, she's based in Cambridge, and Cambridge Angels is like the biggest and best syndicate in the UK. And she talked about that she will only invest after she mentors and works with the entrepreneur for quite a while. So I thought that was a really interesting piece of advice. So I don't think that most angels are as involved as this particular woman. But honestly, if you have the time, that's the right way to do it. You can really influence the value of the investment, and you get to know the entrepreneur, because everyone says 80% of the value is the entrepreneur. And I find it very unsatisfying that I have to make a decision based on one meeting or two meetings. Mm-hmm. So I think that was another great piece of advice that I've gotten, which I think maybe when I get a little more settled into this, I might start mentoring a bit.
Yeah, so my first question was about, how you build the first relationship and whether it sticks. So you stick with your syndicate investors.
Well, with my syndicate, so I'm a salesperson. I've always sold technology. I've been a salesperson. You can probably tell, right? And plus I'm American, so everything sounds like I'm selling constantly. But I say that when I'm selling software and people don't want to buy it, I'm pushing against a door. And when there's the right product market fit, when my solution suits the customer, I fall through the door. And it hasn't been any different with HERmesa. I meet people and they're like, oh, and then I meet people who within 15 minutes, they've never met me. They're like, yep, I'll invest with you. And so I've been really lucky that I've met a small group of women who I've fallen through the door. They've been wanting to angel invest and they didn't know how, or they found maybe some of the other groups weren't very welcoming, or they thought, I'm nervous about the check size. I like that HERmesa starts us at a lower check value. So whatever a couple features I was doing, I met women who were ready to fall through the door. The next challenge for me is to build that network, and which I'll be doing through content marketing, but also through asking each of my investors to then bring me 2 more women. And I think that's probably the right way to grow it. But it's because I think what I'm offering, people need.
Nóra, what about you? So personal relationships, how you build the investor group?
How do we build the investor group?
Yeah, it's
for a crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah, I am asking you, not just Tőkeportál.
Yeah, sure. Of course, it's also a lengthier time to prepare a crowdfunding campaign. When you, even just for the sake of validation, you go out and reach out to investors and organize one-on-one meetings, quite a lot actually, before a new startup's campaign can be launched, especially if it's the first time. I think the careful preparation of a campaign is also part of the. It's also key to succeed with a campaign, especially within such a small investor community like we have here in Hungary. And that's also very much concentrated here in Budapest. And that's, as you know that better than I do, that everyone knows the others after having spent a few years in this industry. So it's not so complicated to get personally known the founders of a particular campaign. The very problem is for the shortage of time, but because startups do not survive half a year, 8-9 months without further capital, or they lose their dedication or motivation and they start to earn money elsewhere if they cannot get funded. So this is already a huge pre-selection period, but that's, I'm sure, the same for angel investment rounds, that if the startup survives that preparation period, especially if it's a woman startup, as Marla has just explained, who has even less chance to get funded, then by the end of the complete process, she or he must be such a great survivor that it establishes a greater chance to complete her business plan. But of course, such black swans like this COVID-19 can all the time show up, but we know that since years, just we never believe that the next one is right around the corner, but they do happen, and they do occur. So it's the same all around the world. Then it's good to know, and what was very, very good from Marla's introduction is, I think that, but please, Barbara or Eszter or anyone from the audience, just speak up if you don't agree that if it works more or less the same way like it is working in here, then it's not an unbelievable goal or purpose to become a good angel investor, because you can go through the same way like Marla has just demonstrated.
Yeah.
So the question is how tough you are and how you start to make these decisions. So that was, I think, a very good takeaway from the complete pitch.
Absolutely. So the message, I think it was very, very clear. And as the event is getting to its end, I really would like to thank you to all of you for being here, and especially Marla for your story, for your experience, for your enthusiasm about the topic, and your openness that you shared all these difficulties, all your concerns, because I'm sure that this experience will help so many people, so many women to start investing. And I think that was really the most important takeaway.
So.
Let's start it immediately. Do not hesitate whether to do it or not to do, just to start, maybe with a small amount of money or a big amount of money. Let's start to feel this experience that you invested, you did something, and then maybe it is not the right first time, but you will experience more and more, and then you will enjoy. And I think the other quite important takeaway was that you should think in a portfolio, that you should invest in several different companies, and then really try to get into the topic. Maybe you should focus on one topic and then dig into that. But let's invite some experts to create this syndicate. So I really do hope that in 3 years' time you will have a big business, and we can invite you again to share your experiences later on. But I really, really appreciate your time, your effort that you dedicated to spend with us. And thanks a lot. And,
thank you.
Wish you all the best, and really wish to have you back. Eszter, just a very, very last question, if you would like to say something.
No, I just would like to add 2 things. One is that we should take a look at whether somebody was asking from outside of the panel something. And before we say goodbye, I would like to mention that we will have Women Business Angels. We'll have another session on the 11th of May, same time as today, and we will have Imre Hild talking, who is a very famous startup developer and also mentor in Hungary and in Central Eastern Europe, and very good global connections. And he has been the professional lead of Women Business Angels trainings for 2 years. And everything is on a voluntary basis here. We really want to grow this and this group. And Marla, we are happy to have you as participant on the 11th of May. So you will get an invitation.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really pleased to connect with all of you. I mean, you can see, I want to grow the whole infrastructure. I think that we need a much more equal future. And I think that Women Angels actually can play a big part in it. And we can make some money doing it too.
Yeah, and I am really so happy to have Nóra, Szeles, and Tőkeportál as our strategic partner. So it's great because you are not alone. You have already allies, and it's great.
Okay, really thanks to all of you, and thanks for watching on Facebook. I really do hope that you will come back very soon. Thanks, and have a very nice evening.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.